Oh my god, what an episode. Hi guys, welcome to the breakdown for episode 4. I seriously cannot believe what we just got at the end of it. I was losing my mind, as I'm sure we all were. A lot happened in this episode, so without further delay, let's get into the video. We pick up where we left Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huyang with their T6 Jedi shuttle temporarily broken and in the forest on Cetos. Unable to contact Hera due to the communication system being down, Huyang continues to repair it, while Sabine goes outside to talk to Ahsoka. Ahsoka attempts to prepare Sabine for the worst case scenario, telling her that the enemy have the means and a method to get to the unknown regions, so they may be required to destroy the map. This would mean sacrificing bringing Ezra back in order to prevent Thrawn returning as heir to the Empire. I'm not sure about you guys, but every time I've heard Ahsoka say heir to the Empire, it's given me chills. Sabine lets Ahsoka know that she can count on her, believing that she is prepared for this scenario, at least in theory. As Huyang comes outside to continue the repairs, Ahsoka returns to the ship, warning him to be careful as we see a HK droid in the distance, spying on them. Baylan, Morgan, Shin, and Marok are standing at the point where the map is projected from. Baylan orders the guards to move in on Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huyang's location, and knowing they won't hold them up for long, sends Shin and Marok not far behind them. Understanding that time is of the essence, he suggests that they should get underway soon, to which Morgan thinks she detects a hint of fear. Baylan replies, experience. Has he met Thrawn before, or has he somehow been to this other galaxy before? I doubt this, but it's just a thought that came to my mind when pondering what experience he has previously had in a similar situation. The episode is titled Fallen Jedi, which as it progresses could mean a number of different people. Sabine is preparing her weapons whilst Ahsoka is reiterating what she said earlier. Sometimes we have to do what's right, regardless of our personal feelings. Almost echoing Ezra's hologram message to Sabine. As a Jedi, sometimes you have to make the decision no one else can. Meanwhile, outside, Huyang is jumped by a HK droid, and man, can Huyang swing. He attempts to yell for help, however the assassin droid muffles his cries as the guards close in. Huyang pulls a wire, turning off the ship's lights, which notifies Sabine, and more so Ahsoka inside, that something isn't quite right. What plays out next is a really cool action sequence with Ahsoka and Sabine working together to make light work of the guards. I also love seeing Sabine go about her work in a real Mandalorian manner. Huyang requests that Ahsoka and Sabine stay together, as they have always worked better that way. It was really nice seeing that carrying side of him. They agree and leave quickly. We finally get a good look at the Ghost in live action in this series. Yes, I know it was in Rise of Skywalker, but it wasn't the same as seeing it here. Hera is disobeying orders, staying true to the word rebels, by leading a small squadron of 5 X-Wings, alongside Jason and Chopper, to the planet Cetos. Carson Tavor is amongst them, who we have seen in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, where he has previously expressed concern at a threat looming. We also see Brendan Wayne portray one of the pilots. If you're not familiar with the name, he is the grandson of John Wayne, as well as the main body double for Mando himself, where he is in the suit majority of the time we see him. The Eye of Sion has entered the atmosphere of Cetos, where Morgan and Baylan are making the calculations for the hyperspace route to Thrawn. Baylan warns Morgan if her calculations are even slightly off, they will be lost. She responds by telling him to have faith, and he gives a pretty damning response. Faith? I lost that a long time ago. Referring to the Jedi Order, I'm assuming. Ahsoka and Sabine are confronted by Shin and Marok in the forest. Sabine fires her blasters at Shin as she runs away. I'm assuming this was to separate her from Ahsoka, who watches on in a confident manner as she prepares for her duel with Marok. Shin slams Sabine into a tree with the Force, knocking her helmet off, and as she goes for the kill, Sabine pulls off this sick move of jumping under her orange blade as she ignites her own. Marok does something really interesting in the duel with Ahsoka. Their blades are locked in a stalemate when he turns his off and Ahsoka's momentum carries her past him. This technique is known as Trakata, and it was widely frowned upon by both the Jedi and Sith, hence why we have rarely seen it. Ahsoka holds that pose we have seen Anakin use against Count Dooku previously, as Marok begins to spin his saber to throw Ahsoka off. He charges her as she remains calm and slices him through the midsection, and as I called in my previous video, we see this green mist released from him, indicating that he was under the control of Morgan Elsbeth's Night Sister magic. Shin looks taken aback at the sight of Marok falling, as Sabine reassures Ahsoka to go after the map. She arrives to see Morgan reaching the Eye of Sion and meets Baylan, covered in his cloak sitting on a stone. This gave me a Taron Malicos vibe from Jedi Fallen Order, whom Cal meets on Dathomir. We hear the dialogue from Baylan about Anakin that we have heard in the trailers, and it was amazing. He was using it to try and get under her skin, make her think about what effect she had on Anakin's fall to the dark side. She asks him if starting another war is worth whatever his goal is, where we hear the line that was at the beginning of the official trailer, "One must destroy in order to create." Initially, this gives me the impression that Baylan is done in this galaxy. He doesn't care what happens here anymore, his goals and plans reside in another galaxy, and he places these ambitions above most people. Perhaps he wants to start another order, who knows, perhaps it could still be in this galaxy, but he seems to be operating as though whatever occurs when Thrawn returns will not affect him. They both assume various lightsaber stances as they attempt to gain the edge on one another, before Baylan settles on one very similar to Qui-Gon's. He is super aggressive with his blade, every strike is just raw power. Morgan boards the Eye of Sion to see the hyperspace coordinates have just passed halfway of the transmitting process. A droid notifies her that Lord Baylan has engaged the Jedi at the Henge. A henge on Earth was generally used for a ritual or astronomical observation, with Stonehenge being the most notable, and also very reminiscent of what we see on Cetos. Baylan continues his defiant protection of the map, throwing a stone at Ahsoka and even grabbing her arm and just launching her. Shin knocks Sabine to the ground, and Sabine reaches out, attempting to use the Force to push Shin away. She shields herself, bracing for the impact, but nothing happens, as she says, "You have no power." Sabine surprises her by launching a projectile from her wrist, disarming Shin. Baylan resorts to attempting to use Anakin's legacy of death and destruction against her, however Ahsoka fires up, launching a barrage of kicks at him as she knocks him to the ground and reaches the map. Grabbing it, it burns her hand as she stops the coordinates reaching the hyperspace ring. Could this have possibly burned the map into her hand, kinda similar to Transformers 2 where Sam Witwicky had the map burned into his brain? Shin senses this and throws a smoke bomb to lose Sabine and reach Baylan. He is infuriated at what Ahsoka has just done, launching heavily weighted attacks as Shin arrives, and Ahsoka realizes Sabine isn't with her. Thinking the worst, Ahsoka's emotions rise to the forefront again as she picks Shin up and slams her against a stone pillar. Baylan launches more aggressive attacks as he has Ahsoka on the edge with nothing but the ocean below her. His sadness at what has transpired shows when he tells her that it didn't have to come to this. Sabine arrives, Ahsoka possibly lets her guard down as she is relieved to see her, however she tells her to destroy the map. Baylan takes one last swing of his blade at Ahsoka, the force of it sending her falling off the cliff. Obviously none of us were worried about the possibility of her dying, however it was very intriguing pondering what the alternatives could be. Baylan talks Sabine out of destroying the map, almost tipping her loyalties too, using the fact that Sabine's family died, presumably during the Great Purge of Mandalore, saying it was because Ahsoka didn't trust her. The urge to see Ezra, as well as Baylan promising it, proved to be too strong, and she hands him the map where he resumes the coordinates transmitting. Shin wakes from her knocked out state, beginning to force choke Sabine before her master orders her to release her, on the grounds that he gave Sabine his word that no harm would come to her. You can see that he's a very honourable character. Huyang has restored their Jedi Shuttle's communications as Hera attempts to make contact as she comes out of hyperspace. He gives her a quick debrief on the situation as well as Morgan's hyperspace ring. Morgan notifies Baylan that the coordinates have completed transmitting, so he destroys the map with his lightsaber, preventing anybody from following. We see an awesome shot of the Eye of Sion, leaving Cetos atmosphere and entering space, preparing for the jump to hyperspace. Hera and her small party of X-Wings attempt to cut off the Eye of Sion's path, as Baylan, Shin and Sabine join Morgan on board. Morgan ignores them and jumps to hyperspace through them, where we get a really cool new animation and look due to the sheer size of power and energy emitted. This sends the New Republic pilots flying everywhere, with two of them crashing into each other, leaving the Ghost recovering to see the hyperspace ring is long gone. Further hinting at a future as a Jedi, Jason tells his mum that he's got a bad feeling, referring to Sabine being on board. Huyang emerges from the T6 Jedi shuttle, calling out for Lady Ren and Lady Tano to alert them he has finished the repairs. Obviously, he got no response. We get this really cool shot, going off the edge where Ahsoka fell, across the water where it transforms into this place that we soon recognise as the World Between Worlds, but in live action. It looks amazing. Ahsoka is lying there where she wakes up, trying to make sense of this place she finds herself in. We hear a voice saying, "Hello, Snips." The captions say it is a mysterious voice, but I could be deaf and still recognise who just said those words. Ahsoka is almost in shock, taken aback by the possibility of who just said that. It would be a name she hadn't heard in a long time. "Master?" she questions. The voice of the Chosen One continues, "I didn't expect to see you so soon." Still stunned, Ahsoka turns around to see her old master, Anakin Skywalker, as she utters his name, still in shock. This beautiful warm music plays as he greets her with that typical Anakin smile as the screen goes black. Vader's theme plays, and we are left on an insane cliffhanger. What an episode. Even before seeing Anakin, it was a 9 out of 10, but seeing him has pushed it to about a 66 out of 10, I reckon. Dave Filoni has done it again, and Peter Ramsey as director for this episode did a wonderful job. I have so much I want to talk about with so many theories, ideas, and possibilities of what is to come running through my mind. I'll save these for videos in between now and next week in order to not clog up this breakdown too much, They are putting episode 5 on the big screen in the US, and with Filoni directing it too, we know we are in for an emotional one. I'm really hoping to see Anakin and Ahsoka walking around the world between worlds together, but I won't go into that theory too much in this video. As always though, it was so good to see Hayden back, getting the love he deserves. I uploaded my reaction earlier, where I definitely stay cool, calm and collected for sure. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Always.